Welcome to this predicted paper from onmaths. This paper represents the best guess for the upcoming exams. Please use this paper in addition to your other revision. You can complete a unique version of this paper by going to our onmaths site. Onmaths is full of free content to help you prepare for your exams, such as topic-based papers, demon questions, and mini mocks. If you like what we do, please consider subscribing. Enjoy! So if we imagine we've got the 25 meter pipe here, and we've got the 35 meter pipe here, the question's basically asking us what can we cut all these pipes into, and they all have to be the same length that will fit with the 25 meter and the 35 meter. And essentially what this question is asking is, what is the highest common factor of 25 and 35? So to find the highest common factor, what we do is we just find the factors of 25, which is 1 and 25 and 5 and 5, and the factors of 35, which will be 1 and 35 and 5 and 7. And the highest common factor is the number in both lists, the highest number in both lists, so it's 5. So what we can do is we can cut all of these pipes into 5 meter pipes. So 1, 2, 3, 4, not to scale, and then 7 of these, so 1, 2, 4, 5, 6, and so there's 7 in total. So each of these are 5 meter long, and there's no wastage, and that's the longest we can make the pipes for there to be no wastage at all. So my answer is 5 meters. So the first thing we're going to do is write this as a ratio between the fractions. So we're going to have green to black. Now it says that a quarter of the counters are black, and therefore the remaining counters will be green. So if a quarter are black, that leaves 3/4 to be green. And what we can do here is, on both sides of the ratio, what I'm going to do is just times it by 4. So I'm just going to times 4 both sides. So 3 divided by 4 times 4, because over 4 just means divided by 4. So 3 divided by 4 times by 4 just gets rid of the fraction. And 1 divided by 4 times 4 is just going to be 1. Now, this might surprise some people because they will probably think it's a ratio of 4 to 1, but we can show here that it's a ratio of 3 to 1. So for this question, we need to understand the different types of graphs from different functions. So if we have a reciprocal graph, it looks something like this and like this. It could be the other way around, and it could be distorted, but it basically goes down to a point along here. It goes to infinity, and it goes to infinity along a point over here, and obviously those positions could change. Then we've got a linear graph. A linear graph is just any straight line, so just any kind of straight line, either up or down, and this doesn't look like either of those. Then we've got a exponential graph. An exponential graph just starts really small and then just really increases like that and just keeps going up. And here we kind of have that, obviously the other way around, it starts going down, but here it's actually going up, so it can't be a reciprocal graph. So the graph that this is, or could be, is a quadratic graph, because it's a nice U shape. So if we carry this on, it could be a nice U shape. It could also be a cubic graph as well. So it could go up and then down and then up, and that's a cubic graph. But the most obvious one is a quadratic graph. So quadratic function. The first piece of information I'm going to focus on is the fact Denver gets 8/19. Denver gets 8/19. That means that Engel and Fido together must get 11/19 because they have to add up to 1. So we're only looking at 11/19. I'm going to focus on the ratio next of Engel to Fido. So it's 9 to 5. And let's have a look and see Well, first of all, how many parts there are altogether? So 9 plus 5, which is 14 parts. So there are 14 parts in total, and the share that they get is 11 over 19. So what I'm going to do is to find out what fraction one of those parts is worth by dividing 11 over 19 by 14. So each part is worth, and I'm just going to keep this into my calculator, 0.041 blah blah blah. And we're asked to find Fido's share. Well, Fido has 5 parts. So Fido has 5 parts, each of them worth 0.041 blah blah blah. I've kept it in my calculator to keep the accuracy, and when I do that I get 0.206 blah blah blah. Now we're asked to work it out as a percent, so I'm just going to times that by 100. So we have 20.676 blah 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 percent, and it wants it rounded to the nearest percent, so that would be 20%. Or actually it would be 21%, because this would round it up, so 21%. So we're asked to find angle BCE, and that is going to be this one here, because you start at B, go to C, and then go to E, and it's the angle you make. And I might just choose a different colour because we've already got red on here. So we're looking for this angle here. Now, my advice for these kind of questions is always just try and work your way around the shape with angles you know. So, for instance, I'm going to start with this angle here, and we're going to call this angle ADC. And we know that that must be 79 degrees, and always write down the reason, and we know it is because that is an isosceles triangle. So if you look, we've got an isosceles here, this one, and this one, and the bottom two angles, and I use the word bottom because I always imagine an isosceles as being this way up. The bottom two angles in an isosceles are always equal, so that must be 79. Now we've got 2 of the 3 angles in the triangle, and the last one is going to be angle DCA. And to work out what this angle is, we're going to take it away from 180. So we're going to do 180, take away the 279s we've just worked out. And the reason for that is angles in a triangle equal 180 degrees. Okay, so when we do that, we do 180, take away the 158, and we're left with 22 degrees. So we know that this is going to be 22 degrees. And now we can actually work out angle BCE, because it's going to equal angle DCA. And the reason for that is they are vertically opposite angles. So that's just going to equal 22 degrees. Now, it is really common for these types of questions for you to get maybe 1 or even 2 marks for the answer, but 1 or 2 marks normally for the reasons and for the explanations. In fact, I've seen quite a few exam questions where you get 2 marks for the reasons and only 1 mark for the answer. We've got to first of all work out how many parts there are altogether in our ratio. So we've got 51 saying yes, 7 saying no, and 13 undecided. So altogether, we've got 51 plus 7 plus 13, which is 71 parts. Now each part is equal. So to find out the value of one part, we're going to do how many students there are, which is 2,911, and divide it by the 71 to find out what one part is worth, how many students are in one part. One part's worth 41 students. So each one of those parts in the ratio is 41 students. Now yes, because it goes yes, no, undecided, yes will be the 51 there. So it's 51 lots of 41 students. 51 parts with each part representing 41 students. And when you multiply those together, you get 2,091. So our answer is that 2,091 students responded with yes. So for this frequency polygon, what we've got to do is work backwards to work out what the table was that created it. So we're going to just draw a starting of a table. And we're going to have our midpoint first, then our like money spent, our intervals, and then our frequency. So the first midpoint is at 40. And we can see here that that was, just get rid of that, that was between, like that was in this group here. So that is 0, and I'm just going to use M for money, 0 to 80. And the frequency is how high it is, which is 10. The next midpoint is here. So that was going to be 120. And we can see that that's between 80 and 160, and the frequency is 20. And finally the last midpoint is here, which is obviously 200, and that is between 160 and 240, and the height of it is going to be 7. So we're looking for the probability customer spent less than 160, so that is these two here. Okay, so there are 30 that are less than 160. And how many are there altogether? Well, it's that 10 plus the 20 plus the 7. So it's going to be over 37. So it's 30 over 37. To find the smallest possible width, I'm just going to do a quick number line. And all I'm going to do is put 12.2 on our number line and figure out what the next number down will be. Well, if it's the nearest tenth, the next number down would be 12.1. That's the next number down it could have rounded to. And I'm just going to cut this number line in half and find out where our halfway point is. Well, the halfway point would be 12.15. And that's actually the minimum it could have been before it would have rounded to 12.1. The formula y equals mx plus c includes this m, and the m means the gradient. So if we're looking for something that is parallel to y equals 9x plus 18, we're looking at this number here. And for it to be parallel, it needs to have the same gradient. So we could just write y equals 9x plus or subtract anything, or we could just write y equals 9x. I'm going to say plus 5. So in this question we are told that the centre of enlargement is at 6, 4. So let's just put across there. And what I'm going to do is just draw ray lines from the centre of enlargement, and we're just going to go through each of the corners of our shape A. And we're going to just check whether it goes through the corner of shape B, which it does on this one. Let's just keep going. Yeah, it does on this one. But it does not on this one. So it says find the coordinate of the vertex of shape B that is not correct. So the coordinate is this one here, and so that would be -4, 1. So angles on a point add up to 360, and we are given the values of the angles but in terms of r. So we know that r plus 9r plus 20 will equal 360. So we've got an equation here we can solve. So first of all, let's add the r's together, and so that will be 10r plus 20 equals 360. Then we're going to subtract the 20 from both sides. So we have 10r equals 340, and then we're going to divide by 10 both sides. So we have r equals 34. So our answer is 34. There's a lot going on with this question, so I'm going to start off just having a look at the total amount of money. So I'm going to do this in pence, so 2,115 pence. And if each merit point is worth 3 pence, then we can work out the amount of merit points by doing 2,115 divided by 3. So that gives us 705. So there's 705 merit points. Next, have a look at the question here, this part here, where it says James has X merit points. Sarah has 4 times as many points as James, so she's going to have 4x. Robert has 69 fewer merit points than James, so he's going to have x minus 69. And we know that that equals 705 because we've just worked that out. And this feels like a solving coming on. So we've got x plus 4x plus x, which is 6x. Minus 69 equals 705. And we're going to add 69 to both sides. So we've got 6x equals 774. Then we're going to divide 6 both sides. And so we've got x equals 129. So x equals 129. That means James has 129. Sarah has 4 times more, so she will have 516. And Robert has 69 fewer, so we're going to take 69 away from that, and that will equal 60. To find the exterior angle of any polygon, we do 360 divided by the amount of sides. These are decagons, which means they have 10 sides. So the exterior angles will be 36 degrees. And the exterior angle is just an angle that kind of continues on. You just continue on from the side. So this one here is the exterior angle of the left-hand decagon, and this one here is the exterior angle on the right-hand decagon. So altogether, the angle A will be 36 plus 36, which will be 72. So our answer will be 72 degrees. To find out what the value of x is, we first of all have to find out what the value of y is. And we can notice that we've got 2 sets of parallel lines here, and a line going through them. And we kind of got these f angles, which we have to call corresponding angles. So we know that 2y minus 50 is equal to 78. And we must write down the reason, so corresponding angles. And corresponding angles are equal. Now here we've got an equation and we want to solve it, so we get our lines in. We'll go first of all add 50 to both sides. So we've got 2y equals 78 plus 50, which would be 128. And then we're going to halve both sides, or divide by 2. So we've got 64. So we know that y is 64. And so we look back at the diagram to find out how we'd work out x. Well, what we can do, there's a few different things we can do. We could work out the fact that these two here are vertically opposite. That would be absolutely fine. But actually, if we look at this part here and this part here, these are also 2 parallel lines, and we've got this angle here and this angle are going to be alternate. So I can write that down here. So angle ECB is equal to 78 degrees. So this will be 78 degrees. And the reason for that is alternate angles. And then finally, if we know this is 78 and we know that this is 64, because we know what y is, then we can work out what x is. So x equals 180, angles in a triangle, take away the 78 we know and the 64 we know. And the reason for that is angles in a triangle add up to 180 degrees. And just make sure you write down all the reasons as you go. And when we take away the 78 and the 64 from 180, you get 38. So x is therefore 38 degrees. The formula for an exterior angle for a regular polygon is 360 divided by the amount of sides. Now here we're given the fact that the exterior angle is 30 and we're looking for n, so we just need to rearrange the equation. We can times both sides by n. And then divide both sides by 30. And so we've got n equals 360 divided by 30. And when you do 360 divided by 30, we get the answer of 12. So it's a 12-sided shape. So we're just going to substitute the values that were given into the formula. So v squared equals, and then u is 16.4 squared plus 2 times a, which is 0.2, times s, which is 110.2. Type that into the calculator and you get 313.039 blah blah blah. And what we're going to do is we're just going to quickly solve this by square rooting both sides, because it's v squared equals and we just want v equals. So v equals, and we're just going to square root that on the calculator, 17.692 blah blah blah. It says it wants it to 2 decimal places, that's just going to be 17.69. So I'm going to start just by writing out the equation, and I can put my lines in. Okay, we're asked to make x the subject, so we're going to first of all add 10 to both sides. In fact, I'm just going to move all this over a little bit so I've got a bit more space. Okay, so we're left with m plus 10 on the left hand side, and we've got 1/7 x on the right hand side. Now to get rid of the 1/7, what I can do is just times both sides by 7. So 7 brackets m plus 10 equals x. So x therefore would equal 7 brackets m plus 10, but it says to expand your answer fully, so we're just going to expand the brackets. 7m plus 70. There's a very specific way to draw a perpendicular from a line. What you do is you get a pair of compasses and measure roughly 3/4 of the way between A and B, and draw an arc from point A, and we're going to draw an arc from point B, and you can see that the two arcs intersect here and here. So what we're going to do is just draw a straight line that join up where they intersect. Leave your workings out, your arcs, on the page when you do this to make sure you get full marks. When you have a fraction, it's just a fancy way of showing a divide. So this is x to the power of 11 divided by x to the power of 3. And indices rules say that when you divide two powers with the same base, you subtract the powers, so it becomes 11 take away 3. 11 take away 3 is 8, so that's x to the power of 8. I'm just going to write the question out a bit bigger, just so we've got more room. And loads of different methods of expanding brackets. I'm going to do smiles and rainbows. So we just draw a smile rainbow, and I'll put a little line there to remind me to times it. So we do 5 times 7, which is 35, and it's 7x, so it's going to be 35x, and 5 times 4, which is 20. So our answer is 35x plus 20. With these questions, it's normally easier to view these as two separate triangles. So we've got a small triangle here with 19 and 47. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to move this out. And we've got a bigger triangle here. And we've got, well, we've got a bit of, we don't really know what any of the sides are just yet, but we can work them out. Okay, now we know that both of these triangles are similar, and the reason is they share an angle and the lengths at the bottom are parallel, so they will be similar, which means one's an enlargement of the other. And we are given some information in the question that the ratio of BC to DE is 1 to 6. So BC is this length here, and DE is this length here. So we're actually given the scale factor because we know that 1 times 6 is 6. So we know the scale factor is 6, and it's asking us to find length AD. And so the corresponding length to AD, which is this one here. So all we need to do is get that 47, times it by the scale factor, so times it by 6 to get to our value. So it's 282. So we're asked to find the bearing of Freetown from Gamley. So that is this angle here. And so what we're going to do is we're going to find this angle, and this will obviously be 90 degrees because the hiker walked west, and it's against the west line and the north line, so it's definitely 90 degrees. So we can work out what the bearing is if we know that angle inside the triangle. So we're going to start by labelling the sides. Well, we've got 90 degrees here, we've got hypotenuse here, we've got the adjacent here next to the angle, and we've got the opposite, which is across from the marked angle. Here we're not using the hypotenuse, we can cross that out, and we can do our SOHCAHTOA. And the only one that doesn't have the hypotenuse is TOA, and so we're doing tan x equals the opposite, which is 49 over 98. Get our lines in, and we're going to do the inverse tan to both sides. So we get x equals, and we do inverse tan, which is 26.565, blah blah blah. Okay, so we know that the whole of the way around up until this point is 270 because we've got this 90 degree left. So what I'm going to do now is we're just going to work out the bearing. So bearing, we're just going to do 270, take away the 26.565, blah blah blah, and that gives us 243.434, blah blah blah. It says it wants it to the nearest whole number, so that's going to be 243. First thing we need to do is find out what 10% of the 109 is. So we're just going to multiply by 0.1, and that gives us 10.9. So what we're going to do is we're going to add and subtract this from 109. So we're going to do 109 take away 10.9, which gives us 98.1. And then we're going to do 109 plus 10.9, which will give us 119.9. So our error interval is between 98.1, and it says to use t, and 119.9. This question relies on the fact that you know what the equation of a circle is. And the equation of a circle is x squared plus y squared equals r squared. Now r is the radius of the circle. So when I rewrite this, and I write it with our 16 there, we can actually rewrite 16 as 4 squared. Okay, comparing this equation to this equation, we can see that r is 4. Now this equation, the x squared plus y squared equals r squared, gives a circle with the centre at 0, 0, at the origin. So it means that the radius will be 4, so the circle will go all the way up here, all the way across here, all the way down here, and all the way across here. Now, I am really, really bad at drawing circles, and so what I would recommend you do is use a compass and measure out 4 and join these up. I'm going to try my best. I don't have a compass that works with this graphics tablet, but I'm going to try and draw somewhat of a circle. There we are. That's probably the best circle I'm going to draw. So what you do is you just get a compass and put the point at 0, and then you would measure out 4 units. So measure it between the 0 and the 4, and then just draw a perfect circle round. A box plot starts with the lowest value, then it goes to the lower quartile. So we have the lowest value, then the lower quartile, and then we have the medium, then the upper quartile, and then the highest value. So lowest value is at 1 on this one, and normally we just put a little kind of line at the end here. So we're going to put a line at 1, and I'm just going to put that line there. Ooh, a little bit further to the right. There we go. And our lower quartile is 9, which is kind of where the box starts. So we're just going to start a box there. We're just going to connect these up. There we go. And our median is 11, so we're just going to show that. Quite a thin box plot so far. Now it says the interquartile range is 5. Now the interquartile range is the distance here. So that's 5. So it's going to be 5 more than the lower quartile. If the lower quartile is at 9, it would be 9 plus 5, which will be 14. So if we get our line at 14, and then complete our box plot. Here we go. Now the range is the total distance of, or the total width of our box plot. So that's 17. So that's going to be 17 higher than the lowest value. Now the lowest value is 1, so 1 plus 17 is going to be 18. So I'm just going to, there we are. And we're going to have that at 18. And again, I'm just going to put a line there. We're going to start by drawing x equals 3.5 onto our graph. So x equals 3.5 will be a vertical line where x is always 3.5. And we're asked to find x is equal to or greater than 3.5. So where on this graph is greater than 3.5? Well, it's going to be on the right hand side of it, because all the coordinates here are more than 3.5. It's got to equal to and greater than. The equal to means that it will be a solid line rather than a dashed line. To find the interquartile range, we need to remember a simple formula, and that is that interquartile range is the upper quartile, take away the lower quartile. How do we find the upper quartile from a box plot? Simple, that is the bit here, which is 29. How do we find the lower quartile? It's just the bit here, which is 12. So use the formula, 29 take away 12, and that's going to equal 17. So the parts of a box plot is the lowest value is here, lower quartile, median, upper quartile, highest value. Okay, so first thing I'm going to do is just a quick sketch of this diagram. And so we're told the lengths are 8 and 6, and the angle between the lengths is 64 degrees. And we've kind of got a missing length down here which we need to find. So we need to find that one. Okay, so let's label them. Now we're going to be using the cosine formula. So cosine formula involves angle A. So we're going to label the angle A. And the one opposite, the one we label as A, is going to be little a. And then little b and little c, it doesn't matter. Right? It doesn't matter which way around you do them. So we're going to write down the cosine formula. So it's a squared equals b squared plus c squared minus 2bc cos a. And so that would be x squared equals, and that will be 8 squared plus 6 squared minus 2 times 8 times 6 times cos 64. And that will be x squared equals 57.916 blah blah blah, and we just need to solve this, and we can solve it by just square rooting both sides. So it would be x equals 7.61000 blah blah blah. Okay, we're asked for the perimeter, and so we need to do 8 plus 6 plus that 7.610 blah blah blah. I've still got on my calculator, and that equals 21.610 blah blah blah. It says it wants its 2 decimal places, so it will be 21.61. So we're told that y is inversely proportional to the cube root of x. And to get rid of this proportionality sign here, we just convert it to an equals and times the right hand side by k, which represents a constant. And we now need to figure out what that constant is. So we're going to feed in the value of y and x that's given to us in the question. So we've got 10 equals k over the cube root of 343. Okay, next thing we're going to do is we're going to solve that. So put our lines in. Now the cube root of 343 is 7. So we can actually just, it's a lot easier, and we're just going to times both sides by 7. So k equals 70, and we're just going to rewrite this, but instead of k, we're just going to write 70. So y equals 70 over the cube root of x. So when we have two equations that are both linear, we obviously do solving through elimination. But here we've got a kind of quadratic-y, kind of circular graph on our second one. So we're not going to be able to use the method of working downwards and eliminating the x or the y's. But here what we can do is we can solve through substitution. This first thing says that instead of y we can write 5x. So what we're going to do is just write out the second equation, but instead of y we're going to write 5x. So we've got x squared plus, and instead of y we're going to write 5x, we're going to put it in brackets because we're going to square it, plus 10x equals 111. So we can actually create a quadratic from this situation. So we're going to just square that. So that's going to be 25x squared plus 10x equals 111. I'm going to just put our solving lines in. It's not much solving to do, because all we need to do is take away 111 from both sides to get it equal to 0, which we need to be able to solve the quadratic. So x squared plus 25x is 26x squared plus the 10x, and we're taking away 111 from both sides, so that will equal 0. So looking at the question, it says 2 decimal places. It's a calculator question. Chances are we're going to be using the quadratic formula. So for the quadratic formula, we need to find out what a, b, and c are. A is the coefficient of the x squared, which is 26. B is the coefficient of the x, which is 10. And c is the number on its own, which is minus 111. So we're going to substitute those into the quadratic formula, which is x equals, and then we put our fraction in, and we've got minus b, and I always put them into brackets, plus minus, and you'll see why if you ever have negatives, so you can get in real problems when you have negatives. It doesn't take much longer to put them into brackets. Minus 4 times a, which is 26, times c, which is minus 111. And then all of that over 2 times a, which is 26. So we're going to do this once with a plus there. And so when we have a plus there, we get 1.882 blah blah blah. And when we do it with a minus there, we get minus 2.267 blah blah blah. But the problem is those are x values, and when we solve we've got to also find out what the y values are. Well, we actually have a really nice way of finding out the y value, because if you look at this first equation, it says that y equals 5 lots of x. So all we need to do is multiply these x values by 5. So we're going to times that first one by 5, and we get 9.4 414 blah blah blah, times the second solution of x by 5, and we get minus 11.337 blah blah blah. And so when we round those to 2 decimal places, which is what the question asks, we can have 1.88 and 9.41, and we have minus 2.27 and minus 11.34. We have a plus 2 on the outside of a function, which means that the y coordinates will all just shift up twice, shift up 2 places. So if I look at this point here, I need to shift that up by 2. If I look at this point here, shift that up by 2. The bottom will go to 3, and we're just going through shifting all of the coordinates up, and then just draw in our new function. A line that has a gradient of 0 will just be a horizontal line. So if you get your ruler and you just have a horizontal line on your ruler, so just have it as a gradient 0, and just keep moving down this graph until it becomes the tangent of the curve. So if you see, it becomes a tangent to that curve here. Where is it a tangent to? Well, it's a tangent to this coordinate here, which is at x equals 2.5. So we've got x equals 2.5, and you can see the y is 2. So the coordinates are 2.5 and 2. With this question, we're going to first of all have to find a length before we can find the length AF, and it does involve us thinking in 3D. What I find sometimes useful though is to draw kind of a 2D representation of the 3D. So I'm going to look at this triangle here, and I'm going to notice that I need to find length BF. That's going to be my objective at the start of this. So I'm just going to draw out this triangle again, but in 2D just to make it a bit easier. And BF is this length here, this is 6, and then this is 9. So we're going to use Pythagoras, so it will be sort of a squared plus b squared equals c squared, so it would be 6 squared plus 9 squared equals bf squared. 6 squared plus 9 squared is 117, and then we just get our solving bit in, just to square root both sides. And I can leave this as square root 117 for now. Okay, the actual length that we want is AF, which is this one here. And I'm going to create the right angle triangle using this bit here. So let's just draw that out. Now the top bit is AB, which is the same as the bottom. It's going to be 14. It's going to be the same as EF. Then the BF we've just found is root 117, and we're looking for AF. And this is the right angle. I didn't show the right angle on the other one, but it should be there. Okay, so we're going to use our a squared plus b squared equals c squared. And a squared is 14 squared plus square root of 117 squared equals AF squared. So 14 squared is going to be 196. Now root 117 squared is just going to get rid of the square root, so it's just going to be 117. And when you add them together, you get 313. And again, get our solving lines in. Square root both sides. And this time we're actually going to square root 313 because we need a decimal answer. So it would be 17.691 blah blah blah. It's equal to AF. And it says to 2 decimal places, so that's going to be 17.69 centimetres. You can complete a unique version of this paper by going to our onmaths site, OnMaths is full of free content to help you prepare for your exams, such as topic-based papers, demon questions and mini mocks. If you like what we do, please consider subscribing.